First of all, full disclosure, I opened for Anvil back in 2013 during the Hope and Hell tour. I've stayed in touch periodically with Sal Italiano, their bassist at the time, ever since. That said, I usually try to avoid reading reviews of the albums I critique prior to my own writing, just so as not to overly color my own thoughts. In the case of Pounding the Pavement, Canadian metal legend Anvil's 17th studio album, I was curious to see what was coming down the line from the various critics. Much to my surprise, many of the reviews were negative, with various heavy metal hipsters throughout the Fifth Estate venting their spleens on just how much they despise the band and the album. For that reason, this piece will be part review and part commentary on the sad state of metal journalism. As far as Pounding the Pavement being a poor offering, I'm sorry, but are we listening to the same album? I, for one, found stellar production, perhaps second only to Hope and Hell in terms of sonic quality, with a dry, no-frills tone that provides the perfect sonic atmosphere for Anvil's brand of working-class proto-thrash blues metal. The result is equal parts AC/DC, Judas Priest, and most obviously Motorhead, with heavy doses of Ted Nugent and Michael Schenker Group thrown in for good measure. In other words, it's the classic Anvil formula through and through. Speed demon riffs and Spitfire vocals, perfect for biker gangs, professional wrestling matches, and monster truck rallies. Like so many who discovered the band through their much-publicized documentary, my awareness of the discography is divided into three parts: their classic period, which covers everything from Hard and Heavy through Strength of Steel, their comeback period, which covers everything from This Is 13 forward, and the interim decades of obscurity. I haven't heard much from this middle period of the band's career, although Back to Basics and Still Going Strong are solid releases. As such, I'm aware of the strengths and weaknesses of the early and latter period releases. The classic era serves as a historic pivot point in the evolution of speed metal, showcasing the skills of a technically gifted, if somewhat immature band, while the comeback era shows the same band, or at least the core duo of Rob Reiner and Steve Lips Kudlow, now recast as metal's elder statesmen, with a sound that can be either timeless or long in the tooth, depending on how it's delivered. With the possible exception of Anvil is Anvil, of which I've not heard enough to render judgment, I've thoroughly enjoyed everything the comeback period has to offer, and Pounding the Pavement maintains that standard. Opening track Bitch in the Box is a solid fist-pumping stomper, while track 2, Ego, is one of the best neck-snapping speed tunes the band has ever cut. The instrumental title track and the Michael Schenker-influenced Rock That Shit are both virtuosic high points, and What I Want brings the Motorhead influence so hard one wonders if Lemmy was summoned from the dead for guest vocal. That's not to say the album is without its weak points. The last three tracks wear thin and feel like compacted filler meant to stretch an EP worth of solid material to long play status. But is this album worthy of all the contempt it's received? Hardly. In my humble estimation, many metal critics are less interested in reviewing albums on their objective merits and more interested in virtue signaling their allegiance to the collective opinion of the metal multitudes, and sadly, much internet fandom seems to be more interested in dismissing new albums with a too-cool-for-school sense of hipster derision than actually appreciating a work on its own terms. Rather than evaluate whether or not an album accomplishes its own conceptual goals, the focus of many critics seems to be pointing out everything the album was never intended to be in the first place, and acting like the absence of those elements is the fault of the artist. For example, many critics are decrying the band for their silly, often tongue-in-cheek lyrics. Yes, Bitch in the Box is about a GPS that gives poor directions in a condescending voice, but why is that a less valid thing to write about than, say, demonic uprisings and Inquisition-era torture techniques or any of the other more sinister trappings of heavy metal lyricism? Yeah, the band sounds retro as hell, but you can guarantee if they tried to sound ultra-modern, they'd be lambasted for that as well. If we're going to maintain this lazy-ass, hackneyed approach to music criticism, why don't we just start giving Natalie Merchant shitty reviews because she doesn't sound like Limp Bizkit? Are those acoustic guitars? Should have been electric. Thumbs down. Are those electric guitars? Should have been acoustic. 1 star. Jazz sucks because it's not disco. Disco sucks because it's not polka. Polka sucks because it's not ska. Ska sucks because it's not adult contemporary. And Anvil is a lyrically lighthearted good times hard rock act, so let's arbitrarily complain because they're that and not something else. Clearly, that's the band's fault. Why stop and consider the fact that metal journalism has become a cottage industry of defecating on the hard work of productive individuals when we can go around impressing everyone with our condescending, impossible to satisfy, nose in the air standards? It's enough to make wine snobs seem even-handed by comparison. Anyway, don't let the bastards grind you down, Anvil. You're a good band, and Pounding the Pavement is further evidence of that. Thumbs up. P.S. Since writing my review, it looks like Pounding the Pavement has received a great many more positive reviews from a number of critics. It's encouraging to see, but many metal critics would do well to go listen to the old Siskel and Ebert episodes on YouTube to see how criticism is supposed to be done. You don't put down Happy Gilmore because it's not Citizen Kane, and vice versa.